So good afternoon, dear friends. For lunch, I sat near to Dr. Udendra, and he was saying I had too much rice, and like it will be very sleepy. And I said, on top of rice, I'm having five samosas. So how it will be? So I don't know how sweet my lullaby will be, but feel free to sleep. But my paper is on a wake-up call. It's an attempt to listen to the wake-up call from the nature. And thank you for the introduction also. Like hardly you take, like as Dr. Badrinath said, Christmas and New Year, no, delete half of it. Maybe you can delete 90% of it. I'm just a student of philosophy, doing my licentiate in Jnanadeva. That's all. That's all. Genuine for my title. Maybe. My paper is titled "A Cozy Look into the Third Factor of the Game through the Philosophical Spectacle of Post-Humanist Philosopher Michel Serres." Michel Serres is a French philosopher, and he's a post-humanist philosopher. So I'll be focusing his philosophy as a tool to look into the nature, and I'll be focusing on I'll be focusing two books written by Michel Serres. One is Times of Crisis, and the other one is Natural Contract. He, in the natural Contract, he begins the book by showing this picture, Fight with Cudgels. It's a painting by Spanish romantic painter Francisco Goya. And it's very visible. Two men are fighting with cudgels. Cudgels are those sticks. And they are fighting and they are knee deep. This picture was drawn somewhere around 1823, just to show the human futility in conflict, in human conflict. But Michel Serres uses this picture to look into the nature, because the result of the fight is dependent on the third factor, that is the ground. Two men are fighting, they are bravely fighting, but the furiously they fight, it's a quagmire. They are going down. They are knee deep, and they will be going much more deep as the furiously they fight. So Michel Serres is saying, this quagmire, nature is a third factor of the game, who is more powerful than the fighters to decide who wins the fight. So that's why it's a wake-up call from the nature, the third factor, who is really capable of deciding the result of the fight. That's why it's that the human fights, that the fight we have, we fight, East versus West, colonizer versus colonized. The fight is always dual. We were thinking that the fight is always between two men or two women. The fight was always it was dualistic. But this picture tells us the fight is no more dualistic, but there is a triple factor. And the third factor is nature, and it is very powerful. So he begins his book with this picture by Francisco Goya. I'd like to introduce another concept called structure coupling. This is put forward by this Chilean biologist and philosopher Humberto Maturana and Francisco Varela. They introduced this concept in their eminent work called Biology of Cognition. In that work, they present a theory called theory of autopoiesis. It simply says that every structure is capable of, or every human being, or any living organism is capable of self-maintaining or self-regulated. There. In that, there is a subset called structural coupling. Structural coupling. It simply says that every structure is interconnected. Structure simply means I'm human, I am a structure. It's like I have cells. My cells is made like they form together to become tissues, then tissues in turn to organs, and finally the structure of human being. Like that, every being in this world is a structure, and every structure is very much connected, interconnected. That is what is called structural coupling. It's a structure. It's like I depend on the nature's oxygen, water, and the structure of. So my human structure, the structure of therein is dependent on the structure of nature, structure of waters. So every structure is connected. That is the idea of structural coupling. And so it simply says that there is no independent structure. Like there is no isolated island. I myself cannot stand without the audience in front of me, with the mic, without the air. So everything is connected. So Maturana says, living systems, structures are invariably situated in and dependent on an environment. So everything is interconnected. I have put that. The rise of, like if the carbon dioxide, if there is a rise in the level of carbon dioxide, we know the earth will get warmer and it will affect my breathing system. So all structure gets connected. So every structure, it remains interconnected. They are disturbing the other structure, at the same time dependent on structure. So the very moment I try to destroy any other structure, it in turn replies that it's a self-destruction. So it's always a two-way traffic. It's a symbiotic relationship that you grow together. There is no isolated twin, that you grow together. So the relation is not even the parasitical. But very unfortunately, the relation that we have is one-sided, one-way traffic or parasitical. We sustain ourselves by destroying the other structures. So that's why I call human at the center of Biogia. So Biogia is another book by Michel, and Biogia is the term itself is coined by him. So I might be using this term instead of environment, because bio means life and gea means earth. So life and earth, it's a personalized personhood meaning that word has. So I'll be using Biogia instead of environment. So the human at the center of Biogia. We placed ourselves at the center, and we constructed a single epistemology only from the view of myself, only from the view of human. It's a human-centered or anthropocentric epistemology that we have created, and we think and we made ourselves as the norm. That's why I put it's actually from Michel. In times of crisis, he says, Heidegger said that we are being in the world, but Michel says that we are thinking that being in the apartment. It means completely unstructured ourselves from the nature. He gives the example of a sailor. Earlier, a sailor was, if he is sailing, he is very much in the sea and he is dependent on the sea. For example, now, if I ask you what is the time, you may look into watch or your mobile. But earlier, a human will be looking up to the sun and deciding what's the time. So this is what happened throughout the process. We were being in the world, but now we are slowly turning into being in the apartment. There is no connection between the nature and the Biogia. And this Maturana, in his studies, along with few other biologists, has found an interesting fact that it's about the biological structure of the eye of a frog. And this frog's eye, if a frog is there, and the frog will be watching a moving fly rather than a cow in front. See, the cow is bigger than the fly, but always the frog will be seeing the fly because the fly matters for the frog. So, frog is biologically structured in that way. So, similarly, this imagery is useful for us also. Like, we also construct the reality. We know that the reality outside is a cow and a fly, and there is a cow which is bigger than that, but the frog, it doesn't matter. It matters only the moving fly. The same way, for us, we construct the reality like the way we want it. But the reality outside is very much, it remains different. Anthropocene, this word like Anthropocene era or epoch, it's coined by atmospheric chemist Paul Crutzen and biologist Eugene Stomer. It's an unofficial word to denote the geological time from the 2000 onwards. It simply means any activity, any human activity is very much capable of making some effects in the nature. For example, like I'm using now the pointer, I'm wearing a shirt, I'm having a shoes, I'm using a mobile, we are having laptops, and all these has some effects in the nature. We speak about the carbon footprint. I was listening to the last session in the second hall, and they were speaking about the carbon footprint. Yes, so everything has some effects. Any human activity that we do has some effects on the nature. That is simply meant by this, that we are in an Anthropocene era or epoch. So now we reached a state where our human activity has affected the nature to the greatest extent, and nature has come to an extent called non plus ultra. It's a French term used by Michel, which means the highest point that nature can be exploited. So we are in such an era. And a French surgeon, René Leric, he explains health. He defines health as the silence of the organ. It's very clear. No? If all our organs are silent, which means we are very healthy. But if we get pain under the food, if we have stomach ache, which means if the organs make some noise, it means we have some health issues. So same way, now if we are looking into the nature, nature is giving us clear signals. Nature is no more silent. My intention is not to bring the statistics, but quickly I point out. 2024 was the warmest year ever in the human history. The Antarctic Sea ice coverage is the lowest on the extent. The snows of Kilimanjaro is 80% is already finished. The Himalayan glaciers, by 2035 it will be finished. In 2019-20, the Australian bushfires, 9 months the Australia has burned. Now we have the California fires. And Chennai also, there was a heavy downpour in 2024, and we know what happened. Every year sea level is rising, and Delhi we know the issue of air pollution. And WHO says the 99% of global population inhales bad air, which exceeds the limit according to their limits. And of course India 100% we are all inhaling the bad air. So that's about air population. So quickly I just point out, just to say that we are, or the nature is giving us clear signals of wake up call. And this is the only point that I haven't taken from Michel, but I have coined, the word is there, but I'm using the word triangulation to bring a balance. So word triangulation is, it's a word that I'm using to bring the interconnectedness between biology, human and economy. There is no one preference or there is no one center point, but everything is equally important. So these are AI generated some pictures for the triangulation. There is no center. There is a three-way traffic. It's a give and take. It's a symbiotic. There is no center in it. So in triangle. So if I'm taking the terms of Delis from the Thousand Plateaus, I can say it's a rhizomatic or rhizomatic interconnectedness that exists between the three. That there is no center. So in that picture, the other on top, you can see a human at the center. So it's like what we are trying to do, or we were thinking that we were the center. But if we look into the present scenario, then I think no more the human, but the economy plays a larger part in deciding the factor. That's why factories are on top. Now, in 2017, Trump, he withdrew from the Paris Agreement. Then day before yesterday again, he withdrew from the Paris Agreement. Then India and China were voicing against phasing out of the call, but they were saying only phase down, no more phasing out. And in the previous COP29, it was known as climate finance. There was a row over, people were saying, developing countries was asking to raise the fund to 300 billions, but they were not allowing. And Trump again saying, make America great again, at the expense of who? At the expense of whom? The question remains. So, the economy now rules the world. Economy remains at the center of this relation between, or the chain between human, or the triad between human, biology and economy. So economy rules, but the idea of triangulation is to bring this formula called human well-being is directly proportional to environmental well-being, which is directly proportional to economic well-being. At present, the formula that which we holds is like human and economic well-being is inversely proportional to environmental well-being. So I would like to turn the formula, and the idea is to bring that all exist without any privilege, without any centrism, but at the same time it's a flow of traffic between these three points. So what we need is a decoupling. Decoupling simply means between the formula of economic or human growth at the expense of environmental degradation. You have to decouple that. Actually, there are two types of decoupling, absolute and relative. What India was asking is about relative decoupling. It's like India's GDP for the last few years has grown 6 times, increased 6 times, but at the same time the emission rate of greenhouse gases has grown only 3 times. So it's a relative growth. 6 times the GDP has grown, but the carbon emissions have grown only 3%. So it's a relative decoupling. Relatively, it's lower. But what the scientist is asking is like an absolute decoupling. It's like developing and without any degradation. That I myself has like suggested that's a little ideal, but it's the need of the time. If I am taking the last, it's a utopian term, but that is what the demand of the time. So no other way for us to like come out of it. So now coming to the towards the end of my presentation, what Michel Serres is suggesting. Michel Serres is suggesting is an upgradation to natural contract. See, we are very much familiar with the social contract, which is put forward by the philosopher Thomas Hobbes in his book Leviathan. So he asks that we humans are, every individual have voices, and we as a natural man we will be fighting. So in order to avoid the fight, we need a contract. We need to make an artificial man or a representative of voice where all voices all wills will be summed up into single will, so that we can have a society, we can have life. That is the idea. The same idea is put forward by John Locke also. He's talking about to have a commonwealth, so that we have the protection of property in the sense life and all other things. So it's a dialogue. Social contract is simply means a dialogue by mutually transferring the rights. See, I have my right, each and every one of you have right, but we are mutually transferring our right to a common factor through a contract, so that we can have a life together. But Serres is asking, where is the nature in it? It's a human contract. So he is saying an upgrade from social contract to natural contract. Even the topic of the theme of our this symposium is also like social and ecological justice. For Serres, there is no such thing. He is saying that come out of that binary, social and ecological. There is only one thing, that is ecological, and the ecological have this social aspect also, because we are placing human at the center. That's why social and ecological justice. So he's telling us to come out of such kind of boundaries and to upgrade our contract into a natural contract, where there is a dialogue between nature and human on equal stance. So nature is also treated as a legal subject to an extent. There is an imagery in the book. Michel Serres is giving an imagery like about a ship is sailing at 25 knots, and there is a rocky bar in front, and the future is very much predicted. We are going to barge into that island or the rocky bar, and the ship is going to collapse, and it's going to result the loss of lives, all lives. But so that, what is the solution? What is the solution for this? There is only one solution: change the direction. Change the direction of the ship. Otherwise, we are going to barge in. But Serres is saying our environmental policies is like the ship is the environment and is going to barge and it's going to collapse. So we need a change of direction. But instead of changing the direction, we humans, what we are doing is trying to reduce the speed. Maybe from 25 to 20. That is what now India is saying. So not phase out, phase down. Okay, relatively emissions are coming down. We are reducing the speed, but the idea Serres is saying is to change the direction. I have put the example of like Punjab. We are still Punjab. They are still burning the rubble. There is no solution for it. But so far as they are not changing the direction. Same every year Delhi gets polluted. Delhi have the problem of suffocation. Schools, offices like closing down. But still, it's happening for the last 5 to 10 years. But still, the major reason. Like burning of the rubble, it is so far we are very successfully practicing. That's why I said we are on the same direction, but we are just trying to reduce the speed of it. What is the major problem? See, Michel Serres is saying we humans are thinking in terms of short term. Politicians will be thinking, making policies for the 5 year till the next election. How can I win the next election? In terms of finance, if this financier, how can we manage this financier? So our human goals are like very finite and short term, but the nature goals has to be long term. We cannot work on nature with some short term goals. That's why I give this example now. Now India is going to do this project already in December 25 of previous year 2024. Narendra Modi has started this. This is the idea is to bring the surplus water from the Ken River in Madhya Pradesh to the Betwa River in Uttar Pradesh, so that the water scarcity of that area can be stopped. So that okay, only 5 minutes. I'll try to sum up. So like there is a problem, and immediate short-term solution we are making. Interlink two rivers, interlink Ken and Betwa, so that the problem is solved. But actually, is that instant solution is viable? I say it has a lot of larger repercussions is to follow. We have the famous example of Aral Sea between Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. For the Soviet irrigation, it was the third largest lake in the world. It was for Soviet irrigation. It was diverted, and that's a picture of the Aral Sea now. In 2010, it's completely dried up. And we have the example of Kissimmee River in Florida. They channelized the river, and what's the result is some 14,000 hectares of wetland they lost. Now they're trying to bring back. So whenever we make instant solutions of geoengineering, we don't know the larger repercussions. Now the Ken River has some surplus water, so we'll take it to Betwa River. It's a geoengineering, but we don't know what is the larger repercussions. And the scientist says that there is no surplus water in any river because it has its own eco services to be done in that area. So what we need is a different long-term solutions. And I am quoting from geologist C.P. Rajendran. Is simply the quote means there is no surplus water, and in long term this is not going to be the solution for the problem. More than that, it will be having more problems. The famous book by the journalist Alice Binia also speaks about the book's name is Empires of the Indus, speaks about how Indus River has been destroyed by constructing barrages by the British, and which was taken over by Pakistan, etc. So a slave never sleeps long. The quagmire under our feet, the ground under our feet, will never sleep long. It can wake up and it can engulf us. And we are now started speaking about the sixth mass extinction because of the overconsumption of the energy. And this is the last point. It's about the legal personhood that Michel is put forwarding. That the idea was put forward by environmental scholar Christopher Stone first. The idea is to give legal personhood to the trees, water, air, etc. And the idea is that it's not just to consider, but it becomes a legal subject where in the court these things have a voice to be raised. So that is the idea that Michel Serres is giving. And it's already done in New Zealand in 2014 for the Te Urevara mountains. In Ecuador, they have done this to Pachamama, like the Mother Earth has every right to exist. So it's a legally now many countries are taking up this idea. And I'm just concluding. It's strange, but you can read it. Let's have a lunch together. When the salad bowl is passed, all one of us has to do is spit in it. And it's all his, since no one else wanted him. Let's have a lunch together. And when the salad bowl is passed, all one of us has to do is spit. This is what we are doing now. If we consider nature as a salad bowl, this is what we are doing now. When I read, it was very uncomfortable for me, but this is what it tells me, this is what I am doing now. So we have to think. So my conclusion will be, we need to decouple this asymmetrical relationship that we have. What we need is a rhizomatic coexistence of triangulation, where there is no center, no privilege, and everyone exists with dignity. Thank you.
Okay, participants, we have good, ample enough time for our discussion. Before we go into the discussion, I would just like to highlight the points or the concepts which were delivered by Father Derek Vaz. Certain highlighted topics like three-factored game, structural coupling, where everything is connected, the frog's eye view, Anthropocene's era, and triangulation where everything is interconnected, then change of direction and later personhood. Keeping the talk and the concepts in mind, now the floor is open to all the participants for the question and answer session.
Thank you, Father Vaz, for a thought-provoking presentation. Since you mentioned the ideas of social contract and a very new concept to me, natural contract. You correctly mentioned that the social contract, in the social contract, people are coming and making a pact to primarily, establish a center of power, right? And these people who are coming together to make this contract are deliberating. In a natural contract where nature is also a participant, if I followed you correctly, in that deliberative endeavor, I want to ask, who is speaking on behalf of nature? How is nature's side of the story or perspective represented? What is the method of reaching that pact? Because at this moment in time, I cannot imagine that there is a deliberative representation from nature's side. Again, another topic, what's the end of that pact? In the social contract, it was about power, establishing, a central power, or a power in which others could participate, a power which could be overthrown if it had exceeded its authority, etc. So what is the goal of this natural pact? And last but not the least, and this question is just to sum up all these other points, do you think this natural contract is at all possible? I mean, with due respect to Michel Serres, okay? Thank you.
See, the same question was posed to Christopher Stone. He is the first person to introduce this idea of giving legal subjecthood or personhood for nature. The same question was posed to him. So I would like to read what was his answer. Maybe that would be better. And it is not inevitable, nor is it wise, that natural objects should have no rights to seek redress in their own behalf. If it is no answer to say that streams and forests cannot have standing because streams and forests cannot speak, corporations cannot speak, either nor can states, estates, infants, incompetents, municipalities or universities. Lawyers speak for them as they customarily do for the ordinary citizen with legal problems. So this was the answer was given by Christopher Stone when the same question was posed. See, for example, a child below 5 and a child cannot speak, but the child has the legal rights, and who is supposed to speak for them? Some guardian. So maybe it's an invitation for all of us to be the guardians of the nature and to speak for them. And it's also, I myself have commented in one point, it seems to be an utopian or little ideal, but I see a possibility of giving legal subjecthood or personhood to these things so that it can be challenged in the court by someone. Recently, previous year, near to my home, Idiki, it's in Kerala, there was an elephant and nicknamed as Ari Komban. Ari in Malayalam means rice because Komban means elephant. So this elephant used to eat rice, and it becomes a nuisance for that people around that whole area that no ration shops they can't run, and all the more this elephant was killing almost, they are saying 12 persons were killed. And this elephant was shifted by the forest department from Kerala to somewhere near Tamil Nadu forest boundary. There was a huge debate was going in the court that it cannot be done. It cannot be taken from his habitat to the other area. But as far as the incumbent have no voice to speak, as long as incumbent has no legal rights, then it becomes a human-centered thing. So the point is, giving a legal subjecthood for nature, for suppose a river, trees, etc., becomes at least a measure, so that at least there will be some good souls who may challenge it at least in the court. For example, now in I don't know, in Kerala we have like more than 3 cents of land, farming land, cannot be converted to for any other purpose. So it's a kind of a similar slight degree of legal subjecthood to that area. So that some kind of nature is protected. One previous year, few years back, in near to my home in Idakuchi, the Kerala Cricket Association, they gave a proposal for a new cricket stadium. But the area was of the mangrove forest area, and there was a law, luckily, to protect some marshy land, so that they had to withdraw the project. So slightly, already this legal subjecthood already we are in practice. But Michel Serres may be taking a step forward to make it legalist. That's why I gave the example of Tanzania, sorry, Ecuador, then New Zealand, then few other companies are also coming. India and also having this idea of giving personhood to rivers exists already. We have the Ganga. It's like a person for us, no? But it's also a contradiction to my part also when we give personhood, but still we are exploiting Ganga to the most extent. But it's not the idea, but idea of giving legal subjecthood to these persons, so that at least some guardians can speak for it. That may be my response. I don't know, to an extent may be possible, but still it remains an utopian concept. But it's well and good that if we can, at least in slight degree, if we can follow. Thank you. Thank you for your intervention.
From my talk, I think it's clear. It's my remark, I'm not asking anything. If there is inevitable merger of natural and social again, back to what is a single domain. And I mean, because of course post-humanism has brought back what is called as, and collapsed what is what was already in place in modern philosophy, where we say that the ontological divide between the human and the non-human. So they collapse. But the most important aspect here is that while we are saying that there is something called as either preserve the nature, bring back what was at its what is zero point or something like that. So somewhere we are forgetting that there is a lot of imperatives on our lives, and because we are so much changes that we are bringing to our everyday existence also, from basic technologies to what I call as the profound technologies. Because so that part actually maybe we are not really getting into. In fact, we are not having much convictions. So we see that there is a climatic change, or we see there is a natural disaster. We see there are some kind of changes that happen. Detrimental changes happen because of the human intervention into certain things. But yet, on the other hand, we only just end up making old summits and kind of a posh air-conditioned hotels, star hotels, and come out of the room and do the same thing. And the way we keep doing on the signing the peace treaties on a global scale, and come out of the room and again go back to the war. Actually. So what is important is the conviction of changing. I think, as we say that 20th century has taken a quantum leap forward. Quantum leap forward in terms of technology and human life, because war demanded it. But in 21st century, maybe I think we needed. I think we have to slow down the pace of where we are heading towards. Like for example, take the cities, they are becoming so excessive. In India, take the example of all the South Indian prominent cities, Chennai, Hyderabad, Bangalore, they are growing so excess in terms of what to say, and further creating a shortage of resources, for example. And coming back to the final, the example that you have taken from merging of river, conversion of river from Madhya Pradesh to Uttar Pradesh, you have to understand it's not just because there is excess water in Madhya Pradesh. In Madhya Pradesh there is no excess water. I am from that state only. So it's all roads lead to Uttar Pradesh now. Anything can happen. Because a few years back, Kumbh Mela happened in Ujjain, Kumbh Mela. There was no water there in Shipra. The water was transferred from Narmada, which is also falling short of that time because of the what's the low rainfall, and transferred to this thing. So what is my take is that we have to change ways of our living rather than really lamenting on the aspect that there is nature is what that is. There is nothing called autopoiesis. It is going to we are going to face the music. Thank you.
So thank you for the remark, and that was precisely the point, that there is no surplus water anywhere.
Any more interventions? One here, one there, one here, three. First, Father Lady, then Father Rajiv, then
Darren, thank you for this beautiful insights from Michel Serres. One of the points that you mentioned, though passing by, is the idea of parasite. It is his book also, 1980 book. A parasite is usually understood as an organism that lives off another host organism, eating off or feeding on host organism, which is usually taken as negative. But Serres seems to be taking it as a rather positive in any system, which it disrupts the host organism, also brings in change, also brings in newness, novelty in the host organism. That seems to be a bit of a contradictory. I don't know much of Serres, but what, according to your reading or according to your insights, why this parasite is required in the case of what you are promoting, this kind of human nature interaction or interconnectedness, which is not one of higher lower order, but of an equal nature as equal level of a dialogical interconnectedness.
Thank you for the intervention from my professor, Father Valerian is Valley Menton says my professor also. This idea of structural coupling that I put forward, that's a statement called every structure exists by disturbing the other structure. And that is simply the law of the nature. Parasitism is also the very fact of reality of nature, that parasites are there. But in that coupling, that every structure disturbs every other structure for the existence, but that doesn't only means to to change, but it has also an aspect of stability. So there is two aspects for that disturbance, which is caused by one structure to the other structure. One is change, and the other one is stability. So to an extent, parasitism in the nature have a balance between these two. That it disturbs, it brings changes, but at the same time it brings out a stability. But very unfortunately, we forget the second aspect of bringing stability to the nature. The relation becomes, we disturbs every other structure only to the extent that the other structure gets destroyed or demolished. So that's where precisely the problem comes. If we can maintain, that's why the idea of triangulation, there is no point. Even Michel Serres is saying the nature is the ultimate reference point beyond which no other law works. But my personal view was triangulation. I brought the idea of triangulation that even nature is not at the center, but it's just a triad, one point where it has to be communicated between human and economy. Actually, this word triangulation is used in GPS system where two coordinates are used to decide the third coordinate, to point the third coordinate, to locate the third coordinate. So in that way, economy has to be there, nature has to be there, at the same time human also has to be there. The problem starts only when we focus only on one point. As far as there is a regular traffic between the three, that can bring in some kind of change. The economy affects the nature, nature affects the economy, or the human affects the other. At the same time, as long as we can maintain the stability, I don't think there is no problem. So the idea of parasitism is taken negatively only in the sense that if I exist by disturbing the other to the extent that the other gets completely demolished. But if it can bring the stability to the other, then it can coexist. So thank you.
Father Rajiv.
This is not the question, just out of curiosity, I want to share something in the light of what you mentioned about animal and human conflict in Kerala, that elephant you took. So I remember my experience in UP, and all of us are aware of that. If you go to UP, in the middle of the road, two cows are sitting and the whole world is waiting for them. So yeah, so in the name of preservation, sometimes we make nuisance for the human beings. In UP, the animals, especially the stray animals, the cows and the bulls, have become nuisance for the farmers, for the poor people, and the government has made law that nobody can kill or nobody can disturb, and so this has become nuisance. So those laws, by whom or for whom, this becomes a very big question. Also, even in my area also, there are a lot of stray animals which are disturbing the daily activities of farmers or poor people. So what to say on that policies and laws?
Thank you for the intervention. When you were speaking about your situation in UP, I was it suddenly reminded me of Singapore. My first trip to Singapore, I was traveling and we could see many overbridges, green overbridges. So I asked my brother, why you have such overbridges? And he was saying, see, these are pathways for the animals to cross, because left and right is the forest, and they have a policy that animal transportation should not be allowed. So that's where it's a respect to the nature. Building over bridges for the animals, I don't know. Like even in India, building over bridges for human is tough. But in Singapore, they have over bridges so that animals can pass by. So that kind of response should be there from as we are humans. No? That should be the response. They should not be a nuisance for us. At the same time, we should not be a nuisance for the animals also. Thank you.
Any more? If there is, that should be the last one. Okay, then. Let me seize the opportunity. On behalf of everyone present here and the organizing committee, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Father Derin Vaz for enlightening us with the paper titled A Cohesive Look into the Third Factor of the Game through the philosophical spectacle of post-humanist philosopher Michel. Through his profound exploration of Michel Serres' philosophy, Father Vaz has shed light on the intricate dynamics of the third factor, a concept that challenges and reshapes our understanding of interconnectedness, relationality, and the evolving nature of humanity in this post-humanist era. Father Vaz has brought clarity to Michel Serres' complex ideas, bridging them with the contemporary concerns, leaving us with much to ponder about the philosophical underpinnings of the game and its implications for the future of human and non-human relations. I would like to thank all the participants for their active engagement and thoughtful questions which enriched this session. Now may I invite Reverend Dr. Lawrence and Gulshan to felicitate Father Derin with a certificate and gifts respectively. you everyone. Any announcement about tomorrow's program from organizing committee? If nothing, let's. Thank you everyone. And